Hey, what's up? It's Brett from Brett's Train Videos. I'm not the most handsome looking chap right now. I'm not beautified and pretty. Still got the mustache because it is November. But I recently went up to Elkhart. It was awesome. It was great. I feel like I saw a lot of the things I don't usually see, like some coal trains, but again, we also had a lot of the things that you usually see, intermodals, manifest. It was just a good day. I spent about 13 hours out on the platform. Was able to see trains and enjoy what I love doing. Feels like forever since I've sat down to do one of these because, I've just been busy. And, the video at the beginning of the month here, at least when recording this, is November 13th. Probably won't see this until December, if I had to guess. Anyway, I wanted to do this quick little intro and say I went up to Elkhart, had a great time. It was awesome. You guys can check out the video that's about to come up in just like 30 seconds or so. I hope you guys enjoy, and this is what I saw up in Elkhart. When I arrived in Elkhart, the weather was not on my side. It was a light drizzle and felt like 38 degrees outside, so not the warmest day ever. It was going to warm up in the afternoon, but until then, I had to tough it out in the cold. A train with Canadian National Power was working the yard. I arrived just in time for the action, as an ET-44 and a Dash 9 were pulling forward out of the yard. I heard over the radio that this was a CN train, CN 44091, Daily Kirk Yard in Gary, Indiana to Elkhart. I'm not sure what they were doing on the east side of the yard, but I wasn't going to ask and chose to enjoy the train instead. Elkhart, Indiana is right on the northern border of Indiana and Michigan, ex-New York Central tracks. Norfolk Southern's yard in Elkhart is very busy, seeing almost 100 trains a day, most passing through since these tracks are a part of Norfolk Southern's superhighway of intermodal traffic between Chicago and Cleveland. Container traffic is all over this line, and it sure was today with many different containers and engines. This is not the first time I've been here. I've been here 4 times before and at least 2 trips to Waterloo to the east. When I do come to Elkhart, I usually go to the station platform and camp out for the day, but that's just me. Across from the station is the National New York Central Museum. I'd never been, but if it interests you, make the visit. Back to the trains.
7.8, track 2, no defects.
As CN 440 was working, a westbound stack train came through on track 1. This is the beauty of Elkhart, Indiana. Constant train traffic. Sure, there are lulls here and there, but you never go more than 90 minutes without seeing a train. I'm not sure what the symbol was for this one, but then the extraordinary happened. Another train came east on track 2. A 3-way train meet was happening right in front of my eyes. I had seen this before, but it's always something special to see. Why does this kind of sound like the Wabash? What? What? What's happening? There are 2 pumpkins on there. Is this a local?
Elkhart, Amsterdam. E23. The unit just rang me up on 64 also. I hit the wrong channel. Hey, that happens. Go ahead, B23.
North Freight, ready to go to Bronx. We got 4 cars.
Roger that. Here we go. We slow pause here at 412. Get those 2 Amtrak by now. I'll get you to Bronx over.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you, Elkhart.
Next, B23 came running with their train forward to the east. B23 is a local out of Elkhart, and it does a turn out of Goshen, Indiana, not too far from Elkhart. I have seen this train all the way in Waterloo, though. After B23, the Grand Elk Local came off the branch line. The Grand Elk is a short line that takes the branch off of Track 1 and Works Industries. I finally got a symbol for this train after seeing it for the past 4 years. Grand Elk 302, or its actual symbol, GGLK 302. Today seemed to be the usual mix of cars, with cars from some faraway rails such as Canadian Pacific and Ferromex. Amtrak 40 had a Siemens Charger up front today. And they pulled all the way down to the end of the platform. I guess it's something new they're doing, as every time before, and as recently as July, they had stopped about halfway down the platform and unloaded passengers. Amtrak 40, better known as the Floridian, runs from way down south of Miami, Florida to Chicago, Illinois, making stops in Pittsburgh, Savannah, Georgia, and Washington, D.C. Amtrak's advertised time for this route is 47 hours. After Amtrak's departure, and a 64Q showed up in the picture. 64Q is an as-needed loaded ethanol train out of Decatur, Illinois, bound for Bowdoin Yard in Jacksonville, Florida. A couple of AC-44s led this train, and the second unit was putting on quite a smoke show as they went east. Lots of tank cars today because, well, you know, it's a tank train.
Better 64QR.
Yeah, we're back together, ready to head back more way.
Roger that. Here we go east. You have permission east advance signal 423. Come on down to 421. Marking for light over.
Coming down to 421, looking out.
Clear out, clear out.
Amtrak 49 came around the curve, with Amtrak 117 leading and Amtrak 100 second, the 50th anniversary Midnight Blue unit. Just like Amtrak 40, they pulled all the way down to the end of the station, and passengers had to make the walk. Amtrak 49, better known as the Lakeshore Limited, runs daily from New York to Chicago, making stops in major cities such as Boston, Albany, Buffalo, and Cleveland.
We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.
22X was next in line after Amtrak cleared. "22X is daily intermodal traffic from 55th Street Yard in Chicago to Croxton, New Jersey, stopping to work Harrisburg and Rutherford in Pennsylvania." "22X is a high priority train, and they seem to be making good time today. Up front, something you don't see on Norfolk Southern much anymore, and especially not as a leader, as NS 9929 led this train today, a -9. On the head end, there was some piggyback traffic, followed by some JB Hunt and EMP containers, some more piggyback traffic, then more containers. There was a small cut of UPS and FedEx traffic in there too, which means 22X has the right of way almost every time. On the bottom today, a sizable cut of spine cars. While you're here at this station, you'll eventually get a train heading into the yard on track 3. This means they come around the curve very slowly. It's not too much of an issue, but it can take a while for the train to clear, thus blocking the track for either 30 minutes or up to several hours. NS 359 is daily freight out of Sterling Heights, Michigan, bound for Elkhart, stopping to work Oakwood Yard in Detroit, River Road, and Airline Yard in Toledo, Ohio. Lots and lots of auto racks on today's train, and it took almost 30 minutes to get into the yard. I will say that this trip was the most efficient use of track 3 I have ever seen. No train was stopped on track 3 for more than 60 minutes today.
Elkhart up.
The Grand Elk Local made its return past the platform and onto the branch line. The funny thing was, as soon as the crew called Elkhart dispatch, all of the switches were immediately lined for them. Either they needed to get out of the way for something else, or nothing else was out there.
Grand Elk 302 over.
Yeah, 302, approach 423, looking for a route back to Kalamazoo Branch. You can handle us, over.
Roger, here we go back. Have a 6 day over.
Roger, here we go. Zoom location, thank you, 302 out.
Around 10:30 in the morning, the cold and darkness was starting to go away, and the sun was beginning to poke through on this overcast morning. I knew the warmth was coming, but so was the wind. NS 18K was making its way around the curve on track 3 with a solo ES44 AC on the head end. NS 18K comes out of Decatur, Illinois, bound for Elkhart, and runs a very weird path. It crosses state line into Lafayette, Indiana, down southwest. It follows in the Lafayette district up until it hits Peru, Indiana, then the line turns into the Huntington district. Once 18K reaches Wabash, Indiana, it turns north and heads through Warsaw on its way to Elkhart. NS 19K, 18K's counterpart, will take the opposite path back to Decatur. I got through all that information, and we haven't even reached the best part of this video. S81 came through next with a couple of BNSF engines on the head end. S81 is an as-needed empty coal train. I tried to do some research on an S81 train symbol, but I couldn't find any information about it. My guess is that it is an extra train being run as needed, but I don't know where it came from nor where it goes to. NS 552 made its way around the corner on track 2. They were doing some sort of maintenance on track 1. They were doing some sort of maintenance on track 1 there, a little bit before the crossing, so they were down to 2 tracks for a little bit. NS 552 is coal loads for Wisconsin Energy and Power and is run as needed. The train originates in Williamson, West Virginia and makes its way to Salem, Illinois to be dropped off to the Union Pacific. On today's 552, all EMD power. As a Norfolk Southern ACC led, a rare Union Pacific SD70 Mac was second, and on the rear, another Union Pacific engine, an SD70 ACE. The little B-23 local was making its way back to the yard from its turn. The sun had finally come out to warm me up, and dang, it felt nice to be in some warmth instead of intense cold. I got some great audio of 60P on the fuel pad talking to dispatch. They were getting ready to leave and head east. I heard a rumor about this 60P having some good power, so I didn't want to miss it. Just before 60P left the pad, NS303 came in on track 3. We saw NS303 on the Fostoria trip, but here it is again I suppose, Bellevue, Ohio to Elkhart, Indiana. Today they only had a solo AC-44 on the head end, but the unusual cuts of coil cars, tank cars, and grain cars with everything else sprinkled in there.
Yeah, here on the fuel pad, main 2. Just got to pull the CP up and get his fuel.
That would be correct there.
Yeah, outbound on ready to go when we can.
Watch for your light. Let me know when you're done. Conductor's aboard. Over.
Let you know, over.
Next to Elkart.
Yeah, conductors head up to the head end, be ready to go in.
Roger that. Okay, East Van Signal 423. They're there. Thanks, Elkart. Done fuel on your DP. Over.
Okay, yeah, we're in contact. Couldn't hear each other. Appreciate it. It's all done. Fuel in 6 feet.
That's correct. Have a safe day, Elkart.
As 303 was coming into the yard, 60P got their light to head east. 60P is potash loads out of Bensonville, Illinois, originating off the CPKC, and will sometimes have run-through power of Canadian Pacific and/or Kansas City Southern. Today, NS60P has a BNSF leader on the head end and an unlikely CSX SD70 Mac on the bottom. A very interesting combination for today. The potash loads are heavy, so it amazed me how quickly this 60P was able to get up to track speed today. Just as the rear DPU for 60P was passing by, the DPU on 303 was passing, so it made for a cool zoom-in shot. After 60p had passed, we got to see the rest of 303, which had more mixed freight and a cut of auto racks on the end, followed by some more general freight. After 303 had gone into the yard, I decided to go get some food and charge up my devices. When I returned from lunch, NS-19K was departing east with a solo SD-70 ACE leader on the head end and a jump scare with the horn. By this point in the day, the sun had come out and the temperature was rising to a more comfortable level. Unfortunately, the wind had also picked up, so my tripod was not having the best time. Eventually, I placed some rocks on the bottom of my tripod to try and weigh it down. I don't mind doing this, but I much prefer to have rocks on the bottom than one that is snapped in half. In the middle of this 19K, a lone AC-44 with the DPU. Next up on the docket was NS-337, a manifest train out of Evans Yard in Toledo, Ohio, bound for Elkhart, stopping to work Airline Yard in Toledo. Since this isn't a super long train, I guess they didn't need the biggest engines in the world to pull this train, as two SD-40s led this train. Just around where I was standing, NS-12Q had reached the platform, making for another train meet, but blocking my view of the SD-70s. Very upsetting. NS-12Q runs daily from Elkhart to Bellevue, Ohio, stopping to work Fort Wayne and Blair Yard in Fostoria. "12Q today had a large cut of coil cars on the head end, followed by mostly junk freight everywhere else. As 12Q passed, I was able to see what was on 337 today. Obviously manifest, but on the end a very large and long cut of auto racks, probably from Detroit if I had to guess. Eventually, 12Q would have some issue down the line with one of their rear cars, so Elkhart Dispatch was talking to the next train, CPKC 231, to see if they could find anything wrong. Nothing wrong was reported, but it was still interesting to hear over the radio. There is a chance we saw 12Q while we were in Fostoria, but I cannot confirm it.
Good report, over. RCP 2231, over. So 11K can see the rear of that 12Q. They are operating on the rail, so you are not restricted to restricted speed, but please be on the lookout for my conductor and making some noise as you go by there, over.
Another foreign train came down the line with CPKC 231, a daily manifest train out of Agincourt Yard in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, to Bensonville, Illinois. This train is a manifest train, but generally an automotive train carrying cars and parts and whatnot. CPKC always uses run-through power on this train, and it's always nice to see a KCS engine.
Intermodal finally returned to the station as NS I-5G came through on track 2. I-5G is an extra 25G originating in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, working Pitcairn, Pennsylvania, and terminating in Chicago at 55th Street Yard. This is one of Norfolk Southern's domestic intermodal trains with J.B. Hunt, Swift, and EMP containers.
The intermodal parade had finally arrived in Elkhart, as NS 257 came next. 257 is container traffic out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, bound for Global 2 in Chicago, one of Union Pacific's intermodal yards, stopping to work Pitcairn, Pennsylvania, Airline Yard, and Toledo, and Hammond, Indiana. They were coming into the station slowly on track 1. Maintenance had cleared the way. They were going to stop at the fuel pad and have some more diesel and a recrew. While on the fuel pad, they were having some issues, but I don't know what those issues were. Having blocking the platform and right next to me, I took the time to check out some of the markings on these intermodal cars. I love intermodal trains, so this was a great opportunity for me.
After checking out some of the markings and having the station blocked, I decided to head to my car to charge up some of my devices since both of my phones were not doing so well battery-wise. While I was resting and charging up, an eastbound intermodal came on track 2. This is honestly probably the best I could have done in terms of recording the train. Also, while 257 was stopped, a manifest went west on track 2. I have no idea what this train was. The fall is a beautiful time of year, but not everyone loves the whole getting dark by 6 p.m. part about fall. I don't either. This was around 4:45 and the sun was beginning to set, just about an hour before the sun would be gone completely. That didn't stop me from enjoying the trains, as NS 51Q came around the bend on track 1. I don't know much about 51Q, except that it originates somewhere and went through Elkhart while I was on the platform. But it did make for some great sunset shots. Another yard train was creeping around the corner at slow speeds heading into the yard. Keep in mind the amount of sunlight there still is. I don't know what the symbol for this train was, but it had a good mix of junk everywhere on it. It would also have large cuts of tanks and bulkhead flat cars sprinkled in as well. I'm not sure what I was doing, but in the final video of this train, I was walking back to the platform for the mid DPU.
As this train was heading into the yard, we had another victory happen. NS-26X was coming out of Elkhart on track 2, and NS-277 was going in on track 1. Another three-way train meet right in front of me. NS-26X is domestic and foreign container traffic from Ashland Avenue Yard in Chicago, coming from BNSF train Z-LAC NYC, Los Angeles, California to New York City. NS just takes it the rest of the way from Chicago. NS-26X stops to work Rutherford, Pennsylvania on the way. NS-277 made a surprise appearance from around the corner, carrying more containers west. NS-277 comes from Port Lock Yard in Norfolk, Virginia, bound for Landers Yard in Chicago. A solo AC-44 on the head end told me there would be a DPU somewhere. All foreign containers today, and creeping approaching the station, which means he was going to stop and recrew in the yard, once again blocking my views. With my views blocked, I went back to my car for the final charge up of the day. All my batteries were dying, but I had several more hours in me if I needed it. While I was waiting in my car, I saw some other trains going past the station. My views were not great, and that was okay. I was simply there to charge up. Unfortunately, I turned my radio off, so a CPKC grain train snuck up on me. It was all grain cars today, and a simple grab and go, in and out in 30 minutes from the time of arrival in Elkhart.
Should work. Okay, West signal to Kishino. Good night.
NS-268 came by the station on track 2, coming from Landers Yard in Chicago to Bayonne, New Jersey, working Sandusky, Ohio, and Rutherford, Pennsylvania. 268 had a lot of empty well cars on the head end tonight, followed by a large cut of foreign containers, and then domestic containers on the bottom. The intermodals continued as NS-264 got the light off the fuel pad and started heading east with the solo AC-44 on the head end. NS-264 is daily out of Chicago from Park Manor Yard bound for Maconville, New York, a city just north of Albany on the Hudson River. Tonight's 264 is running with double stacks up front, single stacks in the middle, including spine cars, a mid-train DPU, and double stacks on the end. Or at least I think so, because NS65E coming in to block my view. I was recording the DPU when it was blowing for the crossing, so I wasn't facing the station. The engineer gave me a couple horn blows to let me know he was there. Don't worry, I was back from the tracks and heard him coming. '65E comes from Linden, New Jersey, bound for Chicago, an as-needed empty ethanol train, 64E's counterpart.
Our final manifest train of the day goes to a very rude 12N departing Elkhart Yard. Rude because when they blew the horn, I got scared. 12N is a big train today. I don't know how long or how heavy he was, but he had 2 engines up front and 2 engines mid-train. 12N is a daily manifest train between Elkhart and Conway, Pennsylvania. They carry all sorts of goods. I didn't have much time to think because 29P reared its train in the way. 29P is a daily intermodal from Bison Yard in Buffalo, New York to Park Manor Yard in Chicago. I could tell by the way he was slowing down that he was going to be stopping. I wasn't too upset and decided that after 13 hours on the platform, I would call it a night. Once 29P came to a stop, I waited for the DPUs on 12N to pass, and then I was heading home for the night. Hey, how's it going? This was very interesting. I tried to put some more information into my videos to kind of create more voiceover time and to try to provide more information on the trains and what was happening throughout the day. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. Let me know that you enjoyed it. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button if you want to keep watching these types of videos. I've had a lot of fun putting them together. The editing on them actually sucks and takes forever. Nevertheless, they're really fun to kind of go back and look at, you know, what I'm doing and, you know, see what I can change up and things. But if you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button. It really means a lot. It lets me know that you guys are interested in these kinds of videos, because if you're not interested, then I'll just go back to me yapping in one of my videos. That's all I really have to say about this one. Hit thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe if you want to continue to see videos like this. But my name's been Brett. You've been watching Brett's Train videos, and I'll see you guys out in the rails sometime soon.